it was so stuck in that technician part where I was the one having to do everything because no one could do it as good as me.
Would you say to anybody that's just hardcore installer, spend that 10% to learn the leadership and develop yourself
Absolutely.
as an older, wiser person?
Yeah, if I could do it all over again, that's what I would do. I would put the time in to meeting the people that can take you to that next level. Y'all know business on such a different level that I got to learn something from you guys every single time. So yeah, absolutely. I was part of Rap Shop Academy and I would ask the dumb questions. But that led me kind of to where I'm at right now. I mean, we're on pace right now to if not breaking $1 million this year,
Oh,
getting
yeah.
pretty close.
All right, Wrap Shop Talk. So today I got Joe Solis in the house, a good longtime friend. And I've known Joe, probably like 4 years now. And we've had our share of conversations, debates, and everything in between, essentially. But Joe is the owner of Image Graphics, and I'll let you kind of take it from here as far as like an introduction for yourself.
Yeah, so I own Image Graphics in Houston, Texas. We were established in 2000. I was doing graphics before that, working for some other sign shops, all the way from either architectural signage um, that were doing egress maps in big buildings, office buildings, things like that. And then I went into the same day sign shop kind of thing, banners and decals. And then from there, kind of moved into car graphics. And from there, opened up my shop. We've been doing, like I said, I've been in the sign industry for about 30 years. And I've had image for 25 this year. So it's been a long road. Got into signage. The all the old timers that you'll ever talk to is you get into signage by accident. Now everybody like it's like a glorified like I want to do this because it's super cool. Well, it wasn't always super cool. It was just more of a means to an end, and it was something you could learn pretty quick and then get that part done. So went to art school. Actually, I went through junior college when I was got out of high school. I was really big into architecture and wanted to do that. But the junior college that was the only college that I could actually, they didn't have like the community colleges back then. They just had junior college and universities. And so the only college I could get into was um, an engineer based drafting program. So that was my worst ever fear because engineering is a ton of math, and I've never been really good at math other than 1 + 1 = 2 and kind of counting cash that way. So when I started putting letters into equations, I just lost me in high school, and it even lost me more in college. And so I needed to get my GPA up. When I got my GPA up, I went and got into some art classes and some physical, like either gym classes, things like that, just to get my GPA up. I really enjoyed the art class that I was in, and my teacher asked me if I wanted to if I ever thought about going into commercial art. I had no idea what that was. I thought I don't make commercials, and they were like, no, it's not commercial art. You're going like logos and branding and things of that nature. And I was like, I had never really thought about it. She said, would you have a talent to do that? You have a talent for noticing what colors go together, balance of art and things like that. So went home, super excited. Told my mom, hey, mom, I want to go to commercial art school. She said, where is that? I said, Texas Tech. She said, I'm not sending you there because you're already wasting my money. So I ended up saving up money, getting a few loans, and then going to Art Institute of Houston. Got into that really heavily. Um, I didn't really I didn't have a whole bunch of money, so I needed to get a job, so I went down to the job board, and there was nothing there. Well, my dad was a police officer in the city that I lived in, and he knew everybody, and so he knew a company called Cantrell Industries, which was an architectural sign company. So went to work for them as a glorified, basically grunt, because they called me the art director, but all I did was take blueprints, take the egress maps, and or take the maps of the blueprints of each floor of 30 or 40 story buildings, and made the escape routes for everything from the elevator to the stairs. So I did that for about a year and a half, and then got recruited to go and work for a commercial sign company. Which the difference is that one does buildings and one does like pylon signs and things like that. Did that for about a year, and then decided to get married. And when I got married, I ended up needing a steady job with insurance and stuff like that. So I ended up going to work for Ozarka Water, which is equivalent to just a bottled water company, for about a year and a half. I did that, got hurt, and then my daughter got sick, had some ear problems, and they told me that I had to go. It was like, I think it was 3 or 4 consecutive appointments that I had to take my daughter to the doctor. And my manager at the time was like, "Well, if you really have to." And at that point in time, I was like, "I'm done. I'm not sacrificing my kids or anybody like that for this." So with a $10,000 line credit, a credit card, I bought everything that I needed: computer, plotter, and and enough money to build a table, and some money to do supplies, and just opened up out of my house. Oh, I wanted to tell you really quick. I worked on a Gerber 4B, I think.
Yeah.
It was one of the old ones back when I was working for the first line company that I worked for. And I went to go research for it. And I was like, oh my God, I remember that. And the amount of time that it took for it to do like one line of letters, as opposed to like our plotters now, which is super crazy. But regardless, went to go work for that. So I started, doing some stuff here and there. A couple of friends of mine, I actually went to go work while I was doing that. I went to go work for another sign company, just doing one day sign stuff again. And so a couple of my friends were like, "Hey, we have some race cars. We want to do some really cool letters." So I did that, and there was no printing back then, or at least not. We didn't have we and so we went ahead and we was doing overlay letters, our spot graphics and designs for their cars. Did all that. And then I ended up understanding that there was wrap now. And so kind of got into trying to figure that part out. Went back, stayed full time with our, I mean, it's not, went full time with the apartment and doing graphics out of that. And then just started slowly subletting from different people, from either a silk screener or maybe a silk screen sign company. And we started just kind of blooming from there. The first wrap I ever did was on a Scion XB solo. It was 14 and a half hours to do one wrap. Had no idea what I was doing. I subbed out all the prints, um, and it was crazy. And then the second wrap that I did was the same exact car, same exact design for the company, but we did it in 11 hours. And then after that, I did a Suburban that was just hacked to shreds. I mean, it didn't line up. I don't know what happened to it. I ended up splicing the hell out of it. And that one I learned a lot on. After that, we just kind of started doing some small stuff here and there. Worked for some other guys that were in the industry for a long time, that were just amazing people that kind of taught me the ropes. Um, Fast forward to 2000, and I'm going to say 2018, we got our first printer. So we had been subbing out everything from that point on. I the, the the years prior to that, probably 8 or 9 years prior to that, I was actually subbing from another wrap shop. I did all their design, they did all my printing, and it kind of worked out that way until we just kind of outgrew each other, and then I decided to go ahead and really go on my own. And then my the first probably 16 years, my ex brother-in-law helped me out. Um, I trained him to do everything that I did, and he was probably just as good, if not better than me, by the time he left. And then we just decided that we were going to go two different ways, and he went his way. It was a huge blessing. It was very hard at the time because he was like my son. Um, but it just didn't work out. Our personalities over time, um, it just didn't fit. And I think at the end of the day, if I were to look back on it and be completely transparent, I was leaning on him to build the company. And I just wanted to pay all the bills and do all that part. And I would always ask him, we'd be on these long road trips, and I'd be like, "Hey, what do you think we should do about this?" And at the end of the day, it was more, I wanted him to tell me the answers instead of me going and getting the answers. Um, so yeah, when we split, when we did all that part, I really had to look at myself. And for about a year, it was just me, myself, and I. and I was doing everything, every single hat there was, I was doing it. Um, Fast forward to 2021 is when I met you, and man, the being in business for 21 years and then sitting at a table with like guys like you and Danny Martinez and Keith Vu and all these people were talking in these business ways, and I'm just looking at you guys like, what in the hell are y'all talking about? I'm playing Joey from Friends and just, yeah, I get it, yeah. And so it was just, I knew at that point that I needed to do something different. And that's when I started reaching out to different people. Brad, you, John, just different people and asking questions. Um, and the one thing that I got from you that I didn't get from anybody else was the fact that, and it pissed me off, to be honest with you, but it was more like, I don't need to know your story. I just want to know where you're going. And so it upset me because I was like, well, my story is who I am right now, and you're kind of dismissing it. And it's not what you were doing. It's just every time I talk to you is always about that. And so from that point on, I had to take a look at myself. And although my story is important, and although I didn't have this or I didn't have that, that had no bearing on what my next step was. Um, and it's funny because I talk about therapy sometimes with my kids, and I'm like, I hate therapy to a point because a lot of therapists want you to go back and spend a lot of times in the backside. Well, I was doing that, but I was doing that about my business story. And so instead of doing that, I just kind of had, I took a step away. And then I mean, more than anybody else, I didn't talk to anybody for a while. You'd say something on Facebook and I'd answer you pretty quickly and short, and that's about it. I didn't want to get into it because I was still mad at everybody, but I would have mad at myself as more than anything else. And so that's the part where I really had to lock down and go, okay, cool. What do I know and what don't I know? And I still have on the board today, right now, business areas, and then it says good to excellent and stuff like that. It says challenge and business acumen. I was doing something out of a 10, and I think it says 1 or 2 out of 10. Now I feel like I'm a lot further along. I'm nowhere near where some of you guys are, but at the same time, I really wanted to make a difference and I wanted to move forward. So I really started, like I said, trying to figure out things and trying to understand them and trying to ask the tough questions. I'd been in multiple coaching beta programs, and the problem was, as I'm a coach myself. I used to coach competitive softball for girls that were going into college, and one of the things that I was always good at is when I got a new player, the first 30 minutes or hour or first lesson that they would come private lesson with me would be to find out where they're at. Most of the coaches that I was working with always wanted to implement tactics and things like that, and I just didn't know. But I could have probably helped it out by being open and saying, hey, I don't understand this. At the end of the day, I was just like, oh yeah, playing that Joey again, kind of like, I get it, but I didn't. And so I ended up getting frustrated and just stopped going to coaching, simply because I just wasn't getting where I wanted. Well, again, now I ask the dumb questions. I was part of Rap Shop Academy, and I would ask the dumb questions, or at least in my head, they're dumb questions, but they're just questions that I had, and that I needed answers to. But that led me kind of to where I'm at right now. I mean, we're on pace right now to, if not breaking $1 million this year,
Oh yeah.
pretty close. Our biggest year prior to this year was $323,000. So that jump, one of them has to do with the large client that we picked up, but the second part is managing that part. I have 2 full-time installers that are just absolutely fabulous, and I picked them because their culture or their work ethic and everything else aligned with me, as opposed to trying to make something work. I did that in the past. I'd gone through probably 4 or 5 employees here, 6 months, here 8 months, here 3 months, and it just never worked because I was just trying to put a body into that position. Well, with Kevin, who's my lead installer, he came from like a DIY background, but he did mostly management and warehouses. But he picked up very fast and he was open to training. Um, Ashley is a newer one that we got. And while, this year we had something tragic happen to one of our helper employees, and he ended up going to the hospital. And so I had to hire somebody. Well, when I reached out to a friend of mine who owns another wrap shop, he's like, man, I don't have enough for her. Can you use her? Absolutely. So she's locked in, and both of them are just amazing. I couldn't do what I'm doing right now as far as company growth without them. They are the most important part for me to be able to do what I have to do behind the desk. You and I talked a while back, and I told you that I didn't know how I was doing all the stuff that I was doing here and then all the stuff in the Bay, because I thought, well, if I give the Bay up, that's a major part of what I'm doing. This should be pretty easy. When I did that, all of a sudden, like 17 other things popped up, and I'm like, crap, like, where did these things come from? But it's important to understand that business isn't just about the tactical side. So that's something that, again, like I said, I'm learning here, learning there, and just trying to be able to grow in that sense. But like I said, I couldn't do it without my team, and I want to get bigger with the team. But I'm having multiple conversations with them about what I'm expecting them to do when other people coming in, to the point to where over the last 4 weeks, I've been putting together a project analysis where point of contact to money in the bank and referral, asking for referrals, and I wrote it all out in a Word document. And then I went back and I'm starting to like pick out the systems and processes of all that, and then communicating with my team and asking them what their opinion is on a couple of different things, because they're in there doing that. Luckily, I've taught them my ways, so it's not a bunch of variants, but a fresh new set of new eyes is great.
That's awesome. I mean, that's a lot of history, but it's fantastic. And usually I like to go back, but instead, like, I think you opened up a pretty cool door that I want to kind of like lean into. So, in a way, like you started off and you did your business out of necessity, essentially.
Sure.
You, like, one, out of personality a little bit, like you don't really like people disrespecting you and all that stuff. But you kind of got that from that employer when they're like, well, if you have to, it's like, dude, it's my freaking family. Are you serious? Like, that kind of thing you don't really comply with.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Like, nor should anybody, but like you especially, like, you're like, nah, dude, I'm out, like, immediately.
No, it was not a decision for me. It was like, okay,
All
my
right,
turn
man.
lost, I'm done.
Yeah. So, fast forward to 2018. So, I mean, basically at first you started the business as necessity. So you kind of operated a lot like a technician in that, because, that's just the role that you were in. And you were just like, let's make some money, basically. Like,
Yeah,
you had to
absolutely.
hustle up some money. And then do you feel that you kind of got stuck in that season?
Um, for a long time, yeah. There's a show that came out a while back. The gentleman's name was Marcus Lemonis, and he would go in and revamp companies and things of that nature. And so one time my ex-brother-in-law asked me, he goes, well, hey, if Marcus came in here and he wanted 51% of your company, but he could make it $1 million company, would you do it? I was like, hell no. Well, nobody's going to take control of my company. So I was of the mindset that I didn't want anybody to take control of anything that was doing in my company.
Yeah.
Whereas right now, totally different. Um, I am so much more open to listening to different things. I tell people right now, I want to position my company to sell. I don't know if I'll ever sell it, but I want it to be able to be in a position to sell if somebody would come up to me and offer me this, something fair or whatnot it might be.
Yeah.
But one thing I learned over the last probably 4 years is that business is business is business. The widget doesn't matter. And so as long as you can understand the business part, that's the part where you can create other things. And so that's what I want to do. Ultimately, I want to be able to help my daughter open up her barbershop. I want to help my other daughter open up her food truck, but things like that. But you understand business. When I sit at the table with you and Danny and Chris Ulmer and all these people, y'all know business on such a different level that I learned something from you guys every single time. So yeah, absolutely. It was so stuck in that technician part where I was the one having to do everything because no one could do it as good as me.
Yeah. The reason why I ask that is, we have a couple different type of peoples, right? So you have the people like I actually think, or let me just ask the question rather than assuming, do you really enjoy installing? Like not necessarily the running the business part and installing, but solely just installing for the art.
Used to. I don't much anymore. I do like
Okay.
working on certain projects, but it's not I I've never done this business because of what I did. I did the business because I was good at it, but I never like I don't love installing.
Okay.
I can do it well, but I don't
Cool.
love it.
So I don't think I've ever talked to you about this lens, but I want to kind of explore it because like this is cool because you're going through it right now. This is why I want to kind of experience it. I'm on the other side of it now.
Right.
There was somebody that made a comment the other day on something where there's like, well, some people don't want to be a corporate business. Well, guess what? You're the architect of your business, and it doesn't have to be. It could be whatever you want it to be. That's the cool part. So when you quit that job, you had to find a new thing to do. And
Absolutely.
then when you found that new thing, you're like, I'm actually not half bad at this.
Right.
Okay. So you explored until you found something that you could exploit, which means that you are now working for dollars because you're good at this thing. So now you're exploiting this thing that's providing you a living, but you stopped exploring for a while.
Oh, 100%.
Right. Because you're like,
So
oh, cha-ching, you're pulling that lever and it's like I'm exploiting this to cash in. And for some of us, we actually end up making more money than we've ever seen before.
right. And to add to that, one of the things that I I lost the ability to understand that exploration part because I tell people all the time when I was 28 years old, when I was 27 years old, when I started doing what I'm doing, things didn't scare me. Like I would just jump into it, throw a squeegee, whatever it was. Now I'm my age now and I'm looking at PPF and I'm going, man, I really need to go to a class or I really need to, like, I need to know how to do it before we do it. But back then it was just like, just do it. And so, yeah, that's a big eye opener whenever you're like, I almost like forgot how to explore. Now, in the business side of it, it seems a little bit, it seems like we have like a tether we can hold on to as opposed to doing something technical like throwing a squeegee around, but it's still the same thing. I just look at it, my brain looks at it a little differently.
Yeah, and that's so that applies to also like, not just in services, and that's where you were headed, but also like becoming like growing up as a technician to be more of a leader role. Being that you were a technician for so long, how does it feel now? Like even, in the situation, so we got two installers in the bay. Does it feel a lot better you leading those people and helping them overcome the things that you had to overcome or already had learned in that role?
It feels different in the fact that when you're doing it, you don't really know how much you know. And then when somebody says, man, I can't get this panel to work. And you're like, this, and this, and you're done. And they're like, wait, what? And I'm like, so I surprise myself a lot by how much I do know about the craft. And so, yeah, it's crazy to be able to go out there and help somebody out with the situation.
Right.
That's amazing.
Whenever you start going from, squeegee to leader, it's really interesting. Like that tool gave you a lot of opportunity. It provided for you and your family whenever your daughter had some medical issues. It got you all your bills paid. And then now you've got somebody like you have the opportunity to literally multiply your skill. Like you said, sometimes you know more than you actually think you know. And I think it's important to, I would say, even if, let's just say all things were the same, and even if you were to go along the lines of, let's just say 10% explore, 90% install. So let's just say 10% leadership, 90% install as far as you developing yourself within the business. Had you started that at 30 and applied 10% leadership skill growth year over year over year, how do you think that would have affected your current situation now? Because like I think you're on the right path, but like it was a little delayed, and that's okay because all of our trails are a little different, and also some of us have to go through that hardship to really see it. Unfortunately, like I'm definitely one of those people where I have to go through it in order to see it. Typically,
Yeah, it'd be exponentially big. I literally just having a conversation with my daughter today about excuses. Um, and I was telling her, I was like, you're 25 right now. In 30, you could change your entire dynamic. I was like, I'm telling you this because had I done what I was supposed to do, 10%, whatever that might be, when I started the company in 2000 to now would have been a drastically different company. Um, and I used excuses. I used them all. I mean, I needed somebody else to help me. I wasn't smart enough. I didn't like this or I didn't like that. I wasn't willing to talk to people, whatever that might be. I did. And I literally was just telling her I would have been so much different company wise, whatever. I mean, it might have even only been, maybe a $2-3 million shop, but it would have been a $2-3 million shop working on a completely different level. And again, I don't have, ever since I talked to you and Jody and all these other people, I don't I don't need to be $1 million company. What's important to me as being anywhere between a 60 and a 74 point GPM period. That's where if I do that, I don't care what my end number is. So when I started looking at it that way, everything started to be less about being $1 million company and being more about a fiscally smart company. And
right?
so that was important to me. And so, like I said, if I'd have made that 10%, we would have been completely different.
Yeah, and also you're with age comes wisdom, and I see this with some people that like I started to see like with some of my customers. I had this one guy, Gage Tree Services, out of Alaska. He had 5 locations. Dude was crushing it. But I started talking to him. He's like, dude, I used to be on the chainsaw. I love getting in trees. And then I fell out of a tree and broke my back. He was just a 2-man team, 3-man team until he broke his back.
Right.
So I didn't want to wait until I got injured or some kind of like life-changing thing to happen to me to like have to figure it out. You know, you you had some issues with your hip for a little while, like a physical. Let's just say, and it doesn't have to be your hip; it could be your hand, it could be arthritis. Something as simple as arthritis. Like my thumb back in the day when I used to install, used to get really bad.
Right.
Like your body does break down. And matter of when is unique to you, unfortunately, and that's not something we can
Right.
control. So going through that process whenever you had your surgery and whatnot, I think that the surgeries nowadays for that process, like hip and knee, are pretty fast. But did you have to lean on your team that you had kind of developed a little bit to get through that, or how did that go?
I had a half a team at that time. I had like a half of a guy. So the 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 weird part about that was this: it happened 2 years ago in June. So full hip replacement. Yeah, the recovery time or the downtime is minimal to an extent. Of course, the doctors want you to stay out for 14 to 20 days. But I had a project that was going on that had 12 vans, all partial wraps, and the guy that was supposed to come in called me the day of, which was literally 3 days after I had my surgery, and said that he wasn't going to be able to make it. So I came in, I called my doctor and I told him, I said, look, I've got to go do this. What are your recommendations? He goes, please be careful. Take it easy, be careful. So I went in my walker, came in, and of course I thought I was Superman. And when it's pretty, at least 80%. Worst thing I could have done, because I was extremely sore the next day and I went a little slower, but I was in here. And so yes, it was a full hip replacement. Yes, I shouldn't have been here, but at the time I still didn't really have anybody. But that was also one of those things where I woke up and I realized, man, I can't do this by myself for the long haul. Like I want to be able to have a company that runs on its own merits. Um, you're an inspiration for that as well because you're in Mexico, but your companies are running in Florida. So that's kind of where I want. Again, I don't know if I want to go that drastic to where I'm not there at all. But at the same time, that's important. I was talking to Sean McNair and he got sick, or he had something happen, not sick. He got something happen and he had to miss some days. And we started talking to like, dude, we've got to do something as far as like developing a program and a plan that's in writing that somebody can look at and go, okay, cool, no problem. This is what we have to do.
Right.
Even now, like we had an issue when I was in Mexico for vacation. I thought I had everything printed out and everything ready to go, but there was 2 files that needed to be printed and laminated and used. So I had to come back, and when I came back, jump on the treadmill again and get everything going. But had I had somebody in production, that would have gone well. But since I'm the only thing that I'm not is prep and install. Prep, install, and make ready. That's the only thing I don't do. Other than that, I still do everything else. And that's what I'm trying to be as lean as I possibly can up until that point to where I need to hand it off. I'm not going to take it a lot further than I am right now. I'm looking actively right now for those people. But we talk about it in Rap Shop Academy. It's so freaking scary. It's scary whenever you have something and you have to hire somebody and goes from there. I look at each one of my employees and I go, okay, cool. What opportunities can I give them? My main goal is to be able to help them achieve their dreams and their goals. Um, that means more to me than anything else in the world. My family's first, my faith is first, my family second, and then their wants and dreams are third. And so that's what I'm striving to do. There's 3 goals that I want to accomplish with Image in the next 5 years. Premier shop in Houston. I want all my employees to be doing extremely well, and I want people to be beating down my door to come work for me, because they want to be a part of this culture. The second one has also the title of being, sorry, the first one has the title of being the premier company, which means when somebody thinks of a route for fleet, they think of us. And so those are the 3 things that I want in the next 3 to 5 years. But a lot of that is contingent on my team. If my team, that's the one thing that I hate when I talk to you or Utah. What
Dan.
Dan? Because you're both always, man, you gotta hire admin. I'm like, I don't know what an admin does except what I do. But at the same time, like that's what I'm focusing on. So that's for me what I'm really, really working on is building that team part. But yeah, man, like it's an incredible journey for sure. It's just there's so much to it. I mean, I've been doing this for a very, very long time, and I've never surrounded myself with people that do other things better than me. And that's what I'm focusing on now is trying to put the people in place to do it. Because I look at a football team and the coach doesn't play the game. He just goes in, the owner doesn't, coach the team. So he goes and buys all the people to be able to win a championship team. And that's kind of what I'm doing.
Yeah, what's his name? Charlie Munger? Is that the basketball coach?
Yeah.
I made a post about that. It says, the game's on the line, the coach doesn't hop into play.
No, not at all. And the owner doesn't hop in the coach. Well, except for Jerry Jones, and that's a different story. But other than that, I mean that's it. And so as much as I'm an integral part of the team, I'm not the I'm not who I was 10 years ago when I was pushing out raps. That's not my position anymore. So it's kind of like if I were to do that, I'd be the old second string QB that won the Super Bowl titles, but doesn't have the same step as the first string QB and trying to step in and play that role again. That's not my job anymore. My job is to run this business to where my employees can still produce amazing work and then achieve their dreams.
That's awesome. Let's see. So would you say that anybody that, so just to confirm, because like, I mean, that's basically what we just talked about. And it's something, it's fresh on my mind because I feel sad. Well, I'm good buddies with a couple of these people that are like celebrity. Let's just call them celebrities in the industry. We needed somebody to make celebrities, right?
Sure.
And I've visited a couple of these celebrity shops, and I'm just like, I don't know that I want that for my life. And then one of them right now is kind of going through it. Actually, a couple of them. One of them got sick recently, really bad. That's not, you know, it's not a refundable policy. So it's,
Well,
you know, would you say to anybody that's just hardcore installer, spend that 10% to learn the leadership and develop yourself
absolutely.
as an older, wiser person?
Yeah, if I could do it all over again, that's what I would do. I would put the time in to meeting the people that can take you to that next level. Um, I never did that. This is the part where you always be like, dude, shut up. But I was never,
No, it's
yeah,
so to confirm, guys, his story is fine. The problem was is Joe told it to me every time we talked. So I was like, dude, I don't care about your story.
I'm just dogging on Brent right now because it's hilarious because I look at it now, I'm going like, dude, I sounded like a little bitch. But regardless, I was never like, I didn't, my journey was I wasn't around any entrepreneur. I wasn't around any business owner. So I didn't even that word entrepreneur to me back in the day was a weird word. Like that's like somebody that opened up, a $1 billion oil company.
Right.
But
Sounds fancy.
yeah, it's super fancy. Now it's like a buzzword, but and everybody's an entrepreneur now. But at the end of the day, I look at it now and I wish I would have been able to go, hey, mom, dad, they don't know this. Okay, so find somebody and ask a question here and find somebody and ask a question there. Whereas that's just not what happened. And so when I started learning that you could ask questions and you could learn things, um, that made a huge thing. The part that I think made me have the quantum leaps was I knew I could ask questions, but now asking the questions without thinking that I'm stupid, and even if I did get the result of I was stupid, then I just kind of went along with it and moved on. Found another person that didn't think it was stupid and answered my question. That was big for me. I mean, big because you're sort of in the coaching world and you've been around it for a little bit, but you know that there are a dime a dozen. Everybody wants to be a coach and everybody wants to do it, but not all people can coach. Just like not all people can be the quarterback. So it's kind of like I'm just trying to figure out where I land and all that. But I'm just asking the questions regardless of what happens and regardless of what anybody thinks of me, because I need to understand and I need to know that. I work with a business coach right now, and when we talked, I told her kind of the same song and dance of I don't really know a whole bunch. And then once I started talking to her, she's like, you know way more than you think, which is giving me some confidence because for the longest time, man, like I really just didn't think that I knew anything other than just grunting it out and throwing some vinyl on the thing. Well, I may have not known it in the proper way, but I knew it, whether it was leadership skills, whether I was talking to different people, whether it was communication between the customer and myself. I did know it. I just didn't know I knew it. And so now,
Or maybe didn't apply it in that
yeah,
specific aspect more than anything.
yeah. And I think, man, it's been a long time. And I think I'm giving myself some credit now, finally, and just understanding, okay, cool, man, let's just work on the positives and not what you don't know. Let's work on what you do know and then give yourself for the credit for that. My wife is an amazing woman. And one of the things that really hit me square in the nose was I went up and I did one of the design battles or whatever at RapsCon a few years back, and I actually won it. Um, and then when I made my post about the win, I noted some amazing designers, Ryan and Christina and Kevin Kemp and all these, and I noted all these, and I put in the sentence right behind that. I don't think I'll ever be able to hold a candle to you guys. My wife read that and she said, "What in the absolute hell is this?" And I go, what are you talking about? I was like, I'm just paying tribute. She goes, yeah, but I'm so sick and tired of you saying that you're not as good as these people. She goes, number one, you're not those people. So there's no difference. You can't compare yourself to any of those people. She goes, but you are talented. So why don't you take that and be, and give yourself kudos for that. But I've always been of the adage, one time, sixth grade, we were playing baseball and I talked shit to somebody and we got our ass handed to us, and I never ever talk shit ever again. So that uber or that hyper humble part of me has always stuck with me. And so I just try to just keep my nose down, do what I'm supposed to do, play like I've played there before, and just if somebody says you did a great job, thank you, and that's pretty much it. But the credit right now is all internal now, so it's like, okay, I do know that, or I do know more than I thought of that, and that's important to me now because I think it's enabling me to really understand that it's okay to congratulate yourself, and it's okay to be humble at the same time. But at the end of the day, the only thing that really matters is your reputation in your industry. And I think I worked extremely hard to have a decent one. And I'm always willing to help whoever wants to help. But man, there's so much growth. I don't care. I mean, I know you, and I've heard you talk. You're like, dude, I still learning things.
Oh
And
yeah.
I look at people like you, and like I said, you and Chris, and I'm like, if you have a lot more to learn, what the hell is like? I don't know if I have that many years to learn all that part, but I just keep moving. That's it.
That's the cool thing though, is relative to you. You can't. It's not a game of comparison. That's the
Absolutely.
thing. Is like my internal whatever it is going to be different than yours, um, entirely, and that comes with its pros and its cons
Oh yeah.
completely. The reason why I have moved, and removed myself from the business the way I did is because I couldn't be in the shop and be the leader at the same time. Honestly, I can't think I can now, but that first year and a half I couldn't.
Right.
I don't think I would have been like a crackhead relapsing every day. Like it's just too easy for me. It's truly the reason why I always ask that question. I get misunderstood a lot. I like installing,
Yeah. I mean,
but
I think it's
I
a
like being on
self-creation.
the other end more. And I
Yeah.
don't think until you, anybody who I have ever had a conversation with that has told me like, well, this is my passion. I'm like, yeah, that's great, but have you ever tried the other?
Yeah. And I think that's where I'm at right now. It's not that I
Yeah.
don't like installing. As a matter of fact, I was walking from the shop into the print room the other day. I was like, I kind of miss it, but it's not a miss in the way that normally gets interpreted. Like I like installing. Don't get me wrong. I love the puzzle side of it, but man, I like this side a lot as well. Being able to get that part done, and I think the biggest, like when we're talking about like hiring that next person, I think for me, once you do it, it's like you figure out a way to keep doing it. Like you figure out a way to keep, like my payroll will jump $1,000 a week, but at the end of the day, like you figure it out. Like,
Yeah.
okay, well, how do I get this part done? So it almost, I've always worked extremely good by putting me in a corner. Huge procrastinator, big time. But now I understand that if I get put in a corner, I can figure it out. So it's a slippery slope because I know I can do that. So I try to not do that, but then procrastination happens and then go from there. So learning all that stuff and then learning also, different techniques and different time blocking and things like that help me um and kind of be able to understand the clarity behind that. Now, it's dangerous as well because now you have free time that you didn't normally have, and you can slide down a very slippery slope on that as well. So it's a matter of like just really plugging in and going from there. um I am not organized, but I have learned to keep picking myself up, like failure. Like if my desk gets all sloppy again, then I just pick one day and I clean it all out again, and then I start again. Hopefully one of these days it'll stick, but at the end of the day, I just keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's just little tiny stacks, and it's hard to see. Um, I think I'm very much similar. Like So when I first started the journey of getting out of the shop, I had a lot of money in the bank, a lot. And it wasn't until I'm like, man, money went down a little bit. And then I get X amount, the money went down a little bit. And I'm like, shit. And I've got like a pretty good chunk of change. And I'm like, I need to get rid of this money. Like to put myself in a bad spot, is where I'm
Right.
like, okay, problem solving mode. Like, let's fix this. Like, this ain't
Yeah.
gonna fix itself. Like, I had cushy situation, and it wasn't the pressure that I needed to bet on me in that moment. So I had to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So
I agree with that. I mean, I can relate to that 100%.
So I think it's very true that as you do progress out of the starting to get people and acquisition of people, like what you do with your time is actually possibly even more important because your role has a higher yield of cost per hour, even like
Oh,
what
yeah.
your new duties have a higher output. That doesn't mean that you need to work 8 hours a day, but like you need to be like dialed for at least five.
Oh, yeah. And that's one thing that I'm realizing right now is that, man, to be able to be, and one thing that I didn't realize is that there's some days when I leave, I never leave this desk except to go get my lunch and come back. And I am more exhausted than a day out in the field because mentally I am just shot. Those are the days I know I can look back and I can go from there. I was talking to some of the guys in the accountability group and like, this is my book. Like I write everything that I do down on it every single day. So even the whole, screw off with social media kind of stuff, I write it down because I want to come back and I want to audit that part. The problem is that when I know I go home and I'm like just gassed, I can look back on that list and go of all the things that I actually did that were cerebral instead of physical. And so, um, you know, the way I look at it is, there's always that mentality, and unfortunately, at least to my knowledge, my employees don't think this, but to my knowledge, like in typical terms, everybody always says the owner doesn't work. The owner works half the time, and the peons work all the time. Well, I never want any of my employees to think that I'm just screwing off half the day. So it's still in me to work. I'm going to let you know that I'm going to be here before you, and I'll be here after you, and I'll be working that entire time. Um, until they understand, or until I feel like I've done the work. And so when I look at it, I think about what they're doing. Like I'm providing them the opportunity to have a car, have lights on in their house, have air conditioning, have a home, feed themselves, stuff like that. Unless they have a huge side hustle, I'm the one that's providing that for them, or not. And I take this out. I'm trying to take me out of it. The business is the one providing that, but the business is being driven by me at this moment. It's not a well-oiled machine where it's just a natural, organic thing that's working on its own. So right now, I'm the ones at the helm. So if I don't do what I'm doing, and I just talked to Kevin about this the other day, I'm like, yeah, we have this large contract. That contract eventually will end. So at that point, we need to have other things that are in that spot or other things that are coming in to be able to level that out. And so that's what I'm working on right now, is just understanding that next step, what I have to do to get to that point. And so, but to the original point, like throwing a squeegee around is 100% admirable. And I love those guys out there. They're the ones who are the nuts and bolts of what goes out. What I want to do is be able to provide them that opportunity every single day where they don't have to worry about something coming in or not. And they can look at the schedule and say, okay, this is what we got coming in this week. And he's provided that, or, that business has provided that for them.
Yeah, I heard it from a South African man. It says, "My this business's job is to provide you with an abundance of opportunity,
Yeah.
and
100%.
my job is to protect the business at all costs."
I agree with that 100%.
And it was like the most John Statham or Jason Statham quote ever
Yeah.
from a South African businessman. But
Yeah.
it was super cool though because it's true. The business is a person essentially, and the business provides for us, and we have to protect it, and we have to do the things to feed it. Last thing we'll go on about is You've been in business for a long time. This big project that you landed, you know, everybody, well, probably the number one question that I get from most people is like, man, how do I learn these? How do I get these big fleet accounts? How do I get these big commercial accounts? How do I, and sometimes I don't think people realize that they probably don't want them sometimes.
No. So first and foremost, our this account, and I heard Duber say this one time that he had been working with this company for almost 10 years before he got this account. Well, this account that I have started 15 years ago when I did one guy's one guy's partnership, one van for an HVAC company in Northeast Houston. We did one van. It was a pink van. It was a breast cancer awareness theme for this one company. Well, 15 years later, he went through a sell of that company, or he grew that company. So we did a bunch of vehicles for him. Then they went to another wrap shop. Then they came back to me. Then he sold the company to a company in Louisiana. That Louisiana company, or then he went on hiatus. So he went off the grid for about a year and a half, 2 years. Then he called me back and he said, "Hey man, the company that bought my company just bought 5 of them in Houston, and they want to make all those outliers the same brand as was one main brand." And then it turned into a slight rebrand, and then it turned into a full rebrand. So it went from one vehicle 15 years ago to 160 vehicles between last year and this year. Now, when that came in and that actually came to fruition, I looked at myself and I go, 160 vans. I have no idea how to even approach this. Like, I really don't. I don't have an idea how to price this. I don't have any idea how many units we're going to be able to get out this week. So it was extremely scary. That's probably the most recent time that I just said, you know what, screw it, we'll just jump. We'll go. Just tell me what to do. Tell me where we're at. Give me the inventory and we'll go. And that's all we started doing is going. But yeah, that was a 15-year relationship that brought that. So it's not like these younger guys that are coming in, and I want to get these big fleets, and they think they're just going to walk through the door and all of a sudden that fleet's yours. It doesn't happen that way. Well, at least it doesn't happen that way for me and anybody that I know.
No, I think it comes from how can you amplify your opportunity to, or your exposure rather? How can you amplify your exposure to have the opportunity? That's the thing, is we don't know if that one van is eventually going to grow to 20 and how fast they're going to grow. But that's also why it's important to be, let's just say one more reason to have the bandwidth to spend time with customers, and why you should hire people is if you can't ask the questions and somebody else should, of what are your goals in your business? What are you striving to do? So that you know where that person's mindset is of like, how are they going? Okay, if that guy says he's going to grow 100 vans, whether he does it or not, I'm going to talk to him monthly.
Right.
To make sure that I'm in his lane, to expose myself to that opportunity if it was to cross my doorstep. And then second, make sure that I had enough infrastructure in place, even if it was just planning. Like me, even when I didn't have the staff that I have today, I, at the very least, even though I was an installer, made sure to befriend everybody to where if I needed to call somebody, I can solve some problems. If I needed 10 installers, I could get 10 installers, most likely.
Right.
That wouldn't be cheap, but I could get it.
Right. Well, I will say this. This is one thing that kind of popped up in my brain. And although I don't have, and I'm currently working on paper-bound systems, processes, and SOPs, even though I didn't have that, I still had the knowledge to be able to put that together. A lot of these guys that I'm listening to, they're all about making sure everything is perfect before they take that step. And sometimes you just got to take that step and hit the rocks on the way down, and figure it out. That's the one thing that I've heard in this conversation back and forth of. It's just, sometimes you just got to go do it, and you'll figure it out. But until you're put into that corner, there's no need to figure anything out. There's no need to try to make things happen. So if you're overly cautious whenever you're dealing with it, I think a lot of the times you end up the whole paralysis by analysis thing, and you overthink it, and so you never do it, so therefore you never get it. So you're right when we go, being that in that lane. But then I think sometimes people are in that lane, and because they don't think that they don't have a written document that says how you do things, they can't accept that job. You just got to figure this stuff out, man. I had no idea I was going to do 160 events. I really didn't. And I'd been in business for 23 years or 24 years at the time. I just said, you know what, screw it. We'll figure, hey, look, we'll take one van at a time and we'll just go about it that way and have an open line of communication with the people and go from there. And that's, man, if I can grab anything, or if I can tell anybody anything, whether you're young or old or just starting in business, the one thing I can say is learn how to communicate. If you can communicate with people, whether it's a personal level, whether it's on a business level, that's the way to do it. Now, my wife always tells me I look like I'm unapproachable, so I'm working on that part and trying to smile more. But if you do talk to me, I do know how to communicate, and I can make you feel warm and fuzzy. I just need to know what you're doing. I have a low tolerance for stupidity, but at the same time, I also understand that if I ask a couple other questions, that stupidity may leave. So I kind of get that part.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, what's one piece of advice that you leave a young hustler with after so many years in the industry? What would you tell Joe, year one Joe?
Oh, do that whole 10%, man. Try to get better every single year, just a little bit. Hell, even if it's 1%, if it's 1% compounded over 20 years, it's so much different than just kind of just staying in the background and just kind of living. Just because you make a paycheck, man, doesn't mean that you make a paycheck. That's one thing that you've taught me over the last couple of years is just because you make $1 million in sales doesn't mean that you're making $1 million. And you need to have your margins and everything else right. But man, even if it's just understanding a little bit of business 101 about just understanding what it takes, I think it would be great. That the last thing that I say is that all these guys coming in that are wanting to freelance install and things like that, man, do yourself a favor, get a DBA, get insurance, and for the love of God, go work for somebody for a year, learn that business before you start doing something on your own because you think it's easy. And throwing a piece of vinyl on a quarter panel is easy. Dealing with that customer, if you hack that paint, is not. And if you're not ready for that, you're not ready for business. And so that's the most important thing is, man, just try to learn from people that are way smarter than you so you can understand that you can collapse time frames by understanding that part instead of just trying to free ball it and do it your own self.
Awesome. Appreciate having you, Joe.
And thank you, Brent. I appreciate all your time. And man, as much as shit as I give you, thank you so much for all of that because you've helped me develop over the last 2 or 3 years.
I knew whenever I hit you with that, it cracked, by the way. Like, because you didn't even respond to me. I was like, he always responds.
I was so mad at you at that one. But yeah, I mean, I get it. Like I said, it was something I needed to hear. And, it finally got in. And I knew it wasn't out of malice or anything like that. It was just more out of, dude, stop. Just move, go. The next step. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, fortunately for you, my mentor is the kind of guy that always told me what I needed to hear, not what I wanted to hear. He was,
yeah.
It's rubbed off on me in my older years.
It's okay. It's okay. You're still younger than me, which is a little slap in the face even more, but it's all good.
Awesome. Well, appreciate it. Hopefully this is helpful to somebody, and we'll see you on the next one.
Take care, guys.